In 1904, when this building was built, Detroit was emerging as a major industrial center. It was on its way from being the 17th largest city in the United States to being the 4th largest. There were industries in this town that made it the perfect incubator for the automobile industry. The knowledge community that came out of these various industries that existed in the town were exactly what was needed. We were the stove capital of the world here. All the stoves were cast iron. So a very highly developed precision casting industry. There was a bicycle industry that depended heavily on sheet metal stamping. Besides the bicycle industry, they were making steam engines and they were making internal combustion, gasoline-powered engines in town. And also there's a huge carriage industry. People like Ransom Olds and Henry Ford spun their industry right into the middle of this, and it worked out perfectly. Plus the fact that Detroit, unlike almost any other city in the United States, had water transportation just a few miles down the road. So this was a convergence of a railroad system in this area. So you could bring raw material in from any place in the country, and more importantly, when you were done, you could ship your finished products out to any place in the world. This building was here because Henry's first car, the Model A, that was built at the Mack Avenue plant, was so successful that the investors immediately realized that that facility wasn't big enough, so they authorized construction of this building. So a Ford evolution occurred in this building. The Model B was built here, the Model C, the Model F, the Model K. In 1906, when Henry Ford came out with the Model N, this immediately became the #1 selling car in the United States. For a period of time, it was the #1 selling car in the world. With the Model N, Henry Ford became a complete manufacturer of his automobile, or almost complete, and he started introducing the techniques that would later be used in the Highland Park plant, where the continuously moving assembly line first was implemented. The real genius of Henry Ford was to recognize things in people, their ability to contribute to his organization. And there were people like Wallering. He brought Flanders in. Walter Flanders was very instrumental in helping him set up his manufacturing process. C. Harold Wills was brilliant. He was worked hand in hand with Henry Ford from the very beginning. Charlie Sorensen was also a big part of it, helping with casting knowledge. Certainly Joseph Galam, who was his chief designer. He was probably the only one in the organization that really had a thorough understanding of automobiles. Pete Martin came along. Pete actually worked for Wallering and for Flanders, but they weren't there very long. So when they left, everything that he'd learned from these guys, and he added to it, and boy, he added a lot. He was very instrumental. Cousins was brilliant. Boy, did he understand business. And because of that, Henry Ford could stand away from that part of it, the business aspects, and concentrate on the cars. In the early years, he knew almost everybody by their first name. He got a lot of ideas about how to make stuff better from this group of people that were around him. John Wandersee, he started out sweeping the floors at Mack Avenue. Henry Ford, somewhere along the line, decided to make him the head of his metallurgical department. And within a year, he was conducting tests, he was doing things. Ford quickly became at the advance of metallurgy in the automotive business. Norval Hawkins was another significant person with the company. Hawkins turned out to be an absolute sales genius. He was the one that developed the advertising campaigns for the Model N and for the Model T. Spiderhoff was absolutely brilliant at developing the electrical devices. The biggest thing was the flywheel magneto. Nobody ever tried to do anything like that. The Model T was really the only car that you could drive that did not require a battery. Well, because of Henry's ability with racing, He'd gained a reputation as a very good engineer. He was able to get backers to finance the start of this company. And there were about 12 of them. Charles Woodall, John Anderson, Horace Rackham. Those of you from Detroit can remember that name. James Cousins also had contributed. Charles Bennett, Albert Strello. Both Horace and John Dodge were stock owners because of the parts that they were supplying. John Gray was a head of a local bank, and he also was the head of the board of directors. And of course, Alexander Malcolmson, whose work and his own personal investment enabled them to get other investors that would be necessary and ultimately be able to finance the Ford Motor Company. The team that Henry Ford created was exceptional. They perfected assembly of automobiles that no one in the world could match. The value that they created, the ability to build an automobile and continuously reduce the price because of the advances in the manufacturing technology created by these people. For the first time, anyone could afford reliable, inexpensive, practical transportation, and it changed everything.